What's the #1 thing worrying investors right now? Well, according to a survey of fund managers from Bank of America Merrill Lynch, it's the European debt crisis. Beats out commodity price inflation, which was the top concern just a month ago. Let's bring in our friend David Blanchflower, Dartmouth College professor, Bloomberg contributing editor. Always good talking to you. I mean,
hi, Margaret.
We didn't really need this survey to tell us this. I mean, if you look at the bond market today, yield of the 10-year bond from Greece is double what it was at the time that they actually got the bailout. But why is it once again of utmost concern?
Well, I think the crisis continues. No investors seem to have confidence that these guys are going to fix it. And now they say, oh, there's going to be no restructuring. Well, nobody really believes that, because either there's going to be restructuring or there's going to be default. And I think in many ways people we missed the presence of DSK, who would have sort of said, you've got to do something. I mean, people have even talked about, if you don't do something, there'll be more Greeks on the streets and this thing will spread. And that's what we've been saying, and the event continues. So I think this is just putting off the evil out. I mean, you even hear discussions about they're going to sell off assets. You know, people have started to say, well, are they going to sell off Greek islands? I mean, it's become that absurd. Yeah, I mean, Mykonos, would you like to buy Mykonos?
Well, some would. I don't know. I know you're partial to New Hampshire, but talk to me about what ECB officials actually said, because as you just referenced there, it'd be like, no, restructuring's not going to happen. Besides restructuring, we're not going to allow extension of repayment deadlines there. I mean, they're sort of putting themselves in the corner where they do have to give Greece more cash, right?
Well, they have to give Greece more cash if they, I mean, the sensible suggestion is give them more time to pay this thing. If you don't do that, you're pushing them to default. The problem actually is the ECB sits there and holds all this debt. In the end, you're going to have to end up not just rescuing Greece, but somehow or other rescuing the ECB, who's got all this stuff sitting on its balance sheet. But of course, in a broader picture, you still have these other countries. You have Ireland, you have Portugal, you have Spain. Right. If you can't deal with one little country like Greece, I mean, we've talked about this for months now. I know. And of course, the crisis continues to spread. We know where it's going. To deny that it's going to go to some kind of default seems rather silly. And now next week, you're going to have another, presumably, Draghi's going to become the new head of the ECB. And boy, is that a job that nobody probably wants.
well,
I mean, would you take it? I wouldn't.
There may be some other jobs open right now. I know you were actually talking about a Brit taking over at the IMF. You think Gordon Brown has a shot to take over for Strauss-Kahn?
Well, I do. Well, I do. I mean, I mean, I've interviewed him a couple of times, and I listened to his talk at Bretton Woods the other day, and you certainly get a sense of a statesman who's interested and set out a kind of global path for things. I mean, you read his book, he's got chapters about Europe and Africa and Asia. Doesn't actually have a chapter about Britain. I mean, he did bring together the people at the G20, so I think he has some sort of shot, and it looks a bit that the British government, who said a month ago, oh, we rule him out. Well, yesterday Osborne was asked, and he didn't rule him out. I mean, obviously, the Brits will sit and think, well, actually, maybe it is beneficial. Even if he's not exactly politically what we'd like, he is a Brit. And so I think there are discussions of that kind going on. I don't rule him out. Obviously, he's got to be nominated. Maybe Christine Lagarde from France is up there, but perhaps the Europeans will start to think it's our thing, we want to keep it.
Well, supposedly Swedish Finance Minister Anders Borg says he's not going to support Brown. He's not the right guy. Do you think that the right person for that role should come from one of the emerging powers?
Well, I think what we're going to have is somebody who has the intellectual power to work out and bring countries together and try and think about these global questions. I mean, Gordon has this. Gordon started to talk about, and I like the stuff that he's done, which is about, this is the first crisis of globalization. And perhaps what we saw was the world economy was rescued by global action. Global action by monetary authorities, global action by fiscal authorities, which may have broken down. And so, I mean, I think it's important to have an intellectual and political heavyweight there. The question is, who might that be from the emerging markets? Even though the South Koreans say we want someone, who is that, and who's going to bring countries together? And I think that's a big question.
It is. It's going to be fascinating to watch. Always good talking to you. David, thanks
you
for joining
too,
us.
and you're invited to Dartmouth.
I'll have to make it up there. Tom Keene took my spot last week, so you guys had fun.
Right, Tom was there last week. Yeah, there's a seat there waiting for you.
He had good things to say.